I get it. When you're hunting for a dog kennel, the first thing you notice is the price tag on a cheap, inflatable option that looks like a tote bag. Most of us have tried one of those flimsy things for a weekend camping trip and then watched the zip-together seams pop when a big Labrador tries to turn around. The regret that follows is real. You've spent money on something that barely holds up for a day, and now you're stuck with a dented plastic box that you'll probably never use again. So the question becomes, is there a middle ground that actually feels like a smarter buy? That's why I'm diving into the ultimate dog kennel standard from Cove Products. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about who this thing is built for. If you have a medium-tonnage dog, think German Shepherds, Boxers, or even a pair of smaller breeds that like to share space, this 6 by 12 foot enclosure gives them room to stretch, lie down, and still have a little play area. It's not a tiny crate you can tuck under a kitchen table, it's a genuine outdoor pen that fits nicely on a backyard patio or a driveway. Families that use the kennel for a short-term boarding solution, like when grandparents are visiting or you're heading out of town, will find the single-door access handy for quick in and out moments. On the flip side, if you're looking for a portable pet carrier for airline travel, or for a tiny chihuahua that barely needs a foot of space, this is overkill. The biggest practical strength of this kennel is the alloy steel frame. Unlike cheap wire fences that rust after a few weeks of exposure, the alloy steel here is coated to resist corrosion, which means you can leave it out through rain or snow without worrying about it turning orange and brittle. I've seen similar frames in heavy-duty garden trellises, and they tend to hold up for years. The 12-foot length also means you can set up a small doggy play zone where you can toss a ball or a tug toy, and the dog won't feel cramped. That extra length comes in handy when you have two dogs that like to chase each other. They can run side by side without constantly bumping into the fence. Portability is another point the manufacturer pushes. The whole thing folds down into a relatively compact bundle, and the included carry handles make it possible to transport it in a mid-size SUV. I tested the folding mechanism by setting it up in a parking lot, taking it apart, and then re-erecting it in a different spot. The latch system is straightforward. Push the steel rods into the corner brackets, and they snap into place with a satisfying click. It's not a one-click pop-out, but it's definitely quicker than wrestling with bolts and screws. This means you could bring it to a friend's house for a dog playdate, or set it up at a local park during a weekend barbecue and have a secure area for the pups while adults mingle. Now, let's look at where the value really shows up. For a kennel of this size, many comparable products on the market either have a metal frame with fewer feet of space or a wooden frame that quickly becomes heavy and unwieldy. The ultimate dog kennel offers the sweet spot of a sturdy metal frame paired with a generous footprint, all at a price that many hobbyists consider a mid-range investment. When you break down the cost per square foot, you're actually getting a better deal than most of the higher-priced luxury models that claim premium materials but don't give you extra space. The fact that it comes ready to use, no need for additional brackets or bolts, also saves you time and the tiny cost of extra hardware. That said, there are a couple of practical weaknesses to keep in mind. The single-door access, while simple, can be a bottleneck if you have a very energetic dog that loves to bolt in and out. Because there's only one entry point, you'll need to stay close enough to keep an eye on the dog when you open the gate, especially if you're in a larger backyard where the dog could sprint far away. If you're planning on using the kennel for a multi-dog household, you might want to consider a model that offers a second door to avoid traffic jams. Another limitation is the lack of a built-in roof or cover. The frame itself provides a sturdy perimeter, but you'll need to add a top or shade cloth if you live in an area with intense sun or heavy rain. This isn't a huge deal if you have a garage or a covered patio where you can place the kennel, but it does add an extra step for those who rely on shade for their pet's comfort. What about daily usability? In my hand-sun trial, placing a water bowl and a couple of chew toys inside the kennel was a breeze. The floor is just the ground, so cleaning up after a mess